And so that's one of the reasons that Helping Seniors is known. That's our major fundraiser. In fact, without your help in getting those tickets, it's very difficult for us to stay active and do the things that we need to do to serve the 165,000 seniors plus 65 plus here in Brevard County. And yet that's the fun part of what we do, but we do such serious work, and we really got to talk about that on today's radio program. And one of the things that I'm excited that we're going to talk about is Joe Steckler, our president and founder. He really is a visionary who's had a heart for seniors. Really, I would think for all of the latter part of his career. Everybody knows he was a Navy captain. In his early days, he did submarine patrols, commanded submarines, and all sorts of things. But he always tells the story. His last command in the Navy was the Navy's retirement home in Gulfport, Mississippi. And so when he retired from that, he and his lovely wife, Terry, they moved to Satellite Beach, Florida, and Joe can't stay retired. So he starts up everything going on with the Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation, and people to this day, they call them Joe's Clubs. He was instrumental in getting those 3 daytime senior care centers established. He worked together to pull people from the county together with people from the business community, and he got it done. And so when he retired from that, Joe couldn't stay retired. So he said along the way, I've learned people have more issues than just simply memory care as we age. And I want to create an organization that can help get people connected to resources that are going to make a difference. And so literally 10 years ago, probably started planning it even a little before that, but certainly officially 10 years ago, launched Helping Seniors of Brevard, Inc. And this is a Florida it's technically called a 501c3. It's a fancy term for nonprofit organization that is dedicated to serving the seniors here in Brevard County. In fact, it's a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving quality of life for seniors through provision of information, education, and resources. So 10 years ago, Joe said we need to create this thing called the Senior Information Line. And so that number, Kim, that you answer literally every single day, 321-473-7770, has become no less, I think, than a lifeline to many seniors in our area.
Oh, it sure has, Kerry. I mean, there's all different types of phone calls that come through, everything from seniors needing an attorney, seniors needing a handyman service, a dentist, you name it. Whatever their needs are, they call in.
Yeah, and even your article that's just coming out in the May edition of Senior Scene, every month, look for the Helping Seniors newsletter. It's right there, center section. We call it the Yellow Pages because it's got a yellow border, so you can easily find it in the center section of your free copy of Senior Scene magazine, which is available at 500 plus locations around the county. But you do a column every month called Kim's Corner, and you're talking about some of the cases where you're helping people. And it was interesting because I was reading this one that you were talking about here, a call from a lady who was concerned for the well-being of her elderly father, age 89. And it seemed like a very common story that you end up trying to get people help for.
It is pretty common, Kerry, unfortunately. This woman, she works, and of course her father is home by himself, and she can only do so much. She can cook meals so often, and sometimes he doesn't even want to eat those meals. He wants something different. So, getting the services that he needs was very critical to get food into the house.
And Joe and I have talked about this for years. Joe always talks about the importance of creating what he calls an aging plan. Your whole life, you're making a plan for what you want to do, as a kid, what you want to be when you grow up and all that. When you're an adult, are you going to buy a house? Are you going to get married? Are you going to go to college? What are all the things? You're going to send your kids to college? Are you going to save for your retirement? So they always tell us we got to plan for things. But interestingly enough, even when we get to what they call our golden years, then we might hopefully we did some things well in terms of thinking about our financial plan, but that's not the plan that Joe is necessarily talking about. He's talking about an aging plan. And I think the best analogy that I can think about in all of this is, here in Florida, we understand hurricane season. which, by the way, unfortunately is around the corner. We'll have to start thinking about. But everybody says, do you have a hurricane plan? Do you have your plans for water, flashlight batteries, the things that you're going to do to make sure that you and your loved ones are safe through a storm situation? So it's the same idea. How are you going to stay safe in a storm situation as you age? And the problem is, as I like to say, it's on-the-job training, because none of us have ever been here before. So we're learning day by day as we go along. And I know, Kim, that a lot of the calls you get are from people who are literally in the middle of a crisis.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just going back to what you're talking about with the hurricanes, I get widows that call me and say, I have so many windows to put shutters up and I have no one. I just recently lost my husband. What do I do? So it's okay, let's get a handyman out there and let's get him to hang shutters or even just take them down. It could be after the storm and she wants them taken down. And we have to get someone out there as soon as possible.
And this is the point. We're all hitting situations that we don't know what to do about next. And we don't really have, we may be smart people or think we're smart or like to think we're smart, but we don't necessarily know who to call, where to call, who to trust, or how to go at it. And, then there's another thing on top of just the normal issues of aging. So let's talk about what's going on here in Florida, where the population is just exploding because people are moving in right and left into Brevard County. It's just growing like crazy. So you've got, not only do you have people that are moving in who really don't know who to call, who to trust, or where to go, then you've got people who are snowbirds, who they're only here part of the year anyway, and so they may have good resources up north where they come from, but while they're here, they've got to figure out, same thing, who do I call, who do I trust, where can I go for this thing that I'm used to getting, up in Illinois or wherever they spend their other time. And then, as if that wasn't complicated enough, let's throw in COVID just to keep it interesting, right?
Right.
And you've had a tremendous amount of calls about COVID. Talk a little bit about what you've experienced over the past year with all of that.
Oh, absolutely. Unfortunately, we have a lot of seniors who are homebound and they don't want to leave the home. Now, especially with COVID virus flying around, they're not definitely going to want to go outside. So they want to get that vaccine. So where do we get the vaccine? How do we get people to come in? So Brevard County Emergency Services was coming in and providing that vaccine to homebound residents in home.
Yeah, and you've been getting a lot of calls about stuff like that. Now, there's an interesting dynamic going on that's starting to catch up in the news. Most of us, I think a lot of us in the studio here, I know both John and Jim have had both COVID shots. I'm one down, one to go. and so I'm on my way. But then I'm also hearing from a lot of people who are kind of like a little bit resistant to it. So I guess those people, we've got to find a way to make sure they're comfortable and that they're okay and where they're going too. So there's a lot of dynamics with all this. The point I wanted to kind of circle all that preamble of discussion to was something that I said at the start of the show. I said, Joe Steckler is really a visionary. He's figured out what needs to happen to help seniors along the way. So the whole idea of putting together this senior information helpline was so important because it gives people a place to call that, let's be honest, it's not commercial. This is nonprofit. This is for the people. And so because of that, you are giving advice, or you're helping people find resources that are the right place to turn to for the particular situation they're facing. And sometimes people say, well, there's a great service here in Brevard. It's called Brevard 211. And of course, it was originally the crisis hotline for suicide prevention, but people call it and they get referrals and things like that. But a lot of times they end up calling you because we're quite different than just a referral service. You get actively involved and you make sure the person is making progress in their case. Talk a little bit about what it takes sometimes to get all the pieces in the right place.
So basically with my position, it's more along the lines of a case management position. It's not like they call in and say, oh, I need a handyman, give me the number, and then we end our discussion. A lot of the times, if they do call in, say for a handyman service, as we're talking through the conversation, it turns into, yeah, you know what? I do need to update my will. Who can I call? I don't know of an attorney that's local. Who can I reach out to? And then, of course, we continue on talking, through the situation with an attorney. And then before we know it, my father needs to get dentures. There's all different kinds of aspects that come into the conversation with. So it's not like they're just calling about one thing, or sometimes they think they're calling for one thing and really they're not. It ends up being almost an hour conversation sometimes because there's more of a need.
Well, I remember hearing one of the people who's done this kind of work in the organization before. She had made the comment that, they call me with one problem, but as we start to have a conversation, it ends up being way more than one problem.
It's multiple. Absolutely. It's multiple problems. And then you also have issues concerning transportation. It's always something additional to what they originally called in for.
Yeah, so I'm still circling on this because we're going to come back and really hit in on this because Joe, I think, created what I really believe is a visionary moment for this organization. When we were having a conversation, he actually published this already in the Senior Scene magazine. So when you get your Senior Scene magazine, I think he did the article also in Hometown News last week. But he said, Kerry, through this whole COVID thing, people have become isolated in a terrible way, right? Because it's one thing if you're able to get out, you can put on the mask, maybe you venture outside and you do a few things and you try to follow all the CDC guidelines. But just as you were talking about, suppose you're homebound and now you can't even figure out where you get dog food for Fido.
Right, exactly. Space Coast Kibble Kitchen, as an example, does provide a food pantry for pets.
Yeah, it was interesting because when all this sort of came on first, you were really like scouring throughout the whole county to figure out, well, where are resources? And the calls you were getting were not necessarily the most obvious calls. I mean, I would have thought, well, maybe how do I get groceries for myself? I can't get out, but it's actually, no, I want to make sure my kitty has kitten chow.
Right, absolutely. And it's not just the food, it's also veterinary care.
Yeah.
Say, for example, a dog needs vaccinations and they're, very, wanting to get these vaccinations yesterday kind of thing because they're going to be late on them. They think of all different kinds of things, and then it's okay, so let's try and reach out to a mobile veterinarian.
Yeah. So what do if you just talk about stress for a minute, don't you think that puts people off just way off the stress chart?
Oh, it does, because they're off their track.
Yeah.
Because the pandemic is flying around and they're thinking, oh my goodness, I have to get all this done, but I can't leave my house. I'm too scared.
Yeah, it's really complicated. So Joe, in 2 words, distilled the whole thing down to, I think, what we all see as what we're trying to accomplish in helping seniors. And it was 2 brilliant words: stay connected. And so in his article that he published on the Hometown News, look for Joe's article. You can't pick up a Hometown News or a Aldea Today or an Ebony News Today without finding Joe's articles, because he's been advocating for seniors for decades. I know John Harper and I have laughed about the fact that he's the second longest running talk show radio host in Brevard County, really second only to John Harper himself. That's because John Harper got Joe started in radio back in the Alzheimer's days. And we were joking with Dr. Lee Sheldon, who has been with Joe almost since the beginning, because turns out that Dr. Lee Sheldon got Joe doing all the TV shows, because Joe has always been, we've got to get the information out to people so that they can feel more comfortable, that they have some options, they have a direction to go, they don't have to go this alone. And isn't that part of what you sense when you talk to people? There must be like a tremendous sense of relief that I'm not talking to press 1 for this department, press 2 for that. They're actually talking to a real person, and a person who cares.
Oh, absolutely. When they do call in, I always encourage them to call me back. We are here Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. If you do reach us after hours, I return your call the next business day, of course, unless if I'm on the radio right now. Or
you can't be in 2 places
no,
at once.
No, can't do that. I can't do that, Carrie, although I do try. No, or if I'm over at an event, at an expo, for example. But for the most part, I do encourage them, and throughout the conversation, I do find that most, if not all, of my callers say, it was really nice to be able to just sit down and talk with someone.
See, this is the point that Joe was getting at. He said, Kerry, what if we could get a group of volunteers together who are willing to help people stay connected? Because, we've all seen the stories and things like that, but our pastor likes to say we're better together than we are separate. Man was not, the Bible says man was not supposed to be alone. I mean, and so we need that interaction with others. And in good times, it's fun, but in bad times, it's absolutely critical, right? You got to have a lifeline, somebody you can talk to. And sometimes, Kim, do you find that it's not always that they appreciate the answer? They also probably appreciate just as much having somebody who will hear it out.
It's actually, Carrie, it's interesting that you mentioned that. It's a lot about the time. A lot of them think that they just call in, get a resource, and run. But then throughout the conversation, they realize, oh, wait a minute, I can actually sit here and have a conversation for 15, 20, 30, 40, so on minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't hang up. I mean, we're still talking.
Well, and it's important because a lot of times, I don't know if you've ever been in the middle of a tough situation and you're trying to figure out, well, what do I do next? A lot of times it seems like you get help just from talking to somebody if they'll just be quiet for a minute, because as you're telling the problem, you're kind of exercising through it and saying, well, maybe I should do this, or maybe I could do that. And then somebody who's kind of coaching you along, like, yes, that would be a good next step, Oh,
right. Absolutely. Like I said before, there's always more than one question. They think they're calling in about one thing, but it turns into maybe 3 or 4 different things. Yeah.
And that's where I think what we're going to try to go with this whole stay connected thing. Joe had made a comment in front of the CDBG board, which is the community. Let's see if I can get this right. The Community Block Development Grant, or some combination of those words. It's a group of citizens who looks at charitable organizations around the county and tries to do their best to award government funds so that those charities can accomplish their purposes. And so Joe and I had an opportunity to present at the Brevard County. They had CDBG funds, and we were successful actually in the presentation in that. And I think part of it was Joe stood there before the folks there and said, listen, this is about people. This is about helping people. We can talk about the number of magazines that go out there. We can talk about the fact that we broadcast on 30,000 watts, which is it's like a blowtorch up and down all of the Space Coast. You can hear us from Titusville to even almost down to Vero Beach. I mean, this is a powerful station. So technically, it's great. We're on Space Coast Government TV. We have our YouTube channel. Hundreds of people watch videos there every week. We have a Facebook channel. We have visitors by the hundreds. We have all the things that we do, social media. We reach out in all these different areas. But as Joe said, it's not about those stats. It's about helping people. And so why do we do the thing? Why do we get up in the morning and say helping seniors is important? Is because with 165,000 plus 65-year-olds out there, they've got to have some place to turn. They've got to have some place that's trusted and some place that knows some of the things. I'm amazed at the book that you and Joe have created over the years of who to call to try to move somebody. We can't solve everything, but I'm amazed how often we can make a difference.
Oh, absolutely. Joe and I have put together this book, and he started, of course, and I just keep adding to it. And there's always a resource out there for someone for whatever the need.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with one of our board members. His name is Dennis Mannion. He's a wonderful gentleman. I think he's turning 80, or he's just about 80 now. And he is one of the first people, whenever we say we need some help with something on the helping senior side, he's the guy who says, no, I'll help you get a car over there for the car raffle. Didn't know that he was a master barbecue pit master. And so with that, we said, Dennis, we need your help. We got some ideas up our sleeve as we go farther in our fundraising. And he said, I'm all for it. But one of the things that he said, as we were talking about stuff, I was telling him, I said, well, Joe has really been on this thought that we really have to talk to seniors and find a way that helping seniors can do more than we've been able to do in the past about helping people stay connected. In fact, where Joe would like to go with this is have us try to create a volunteer board who will help volunteer some time to talk with seniors.
You're listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard. Let's get back to more of the show, and here's Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper, thank you. And it's good to be in the mood with Glenn Miller, such great music of your life kind of music. So, with Kim Bernard here in the studio, how are you today, Kim?
Doing good, Kerry.
Yeah, so we're talking about Joe Steckler, our president and founder, and a great thing that he's been talking about, which is called Stay Connected. And as we were talking about before we went into the break, really, one of the things we want to do is start working towards building up a group of volunteers who will be willing to help check in and help us all stay a bit connected. And that was one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, Kim, is that, this is really like one of the most important functions that you do as an education specialist. I mean, you have technical skills and everything about knowing how to get people connected to the right resource at the right time. But a lot of it is just having the listening skills and the ability to try to see what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. They definitely need someone to listen to them, even if it's just listening to how their day is going.
Yeah.
I have one lady that calls in pretty frequently, and she lives by herself. She's in her upper 80s. Her son is pretty close by, but of course he works, and she'll just call in just to chit chat. Just to talk. I mean, it could be an hour conversation just to talk about whatever's going on in her life.
Right. And I remember when Joe had the gentleman from the Palm Bay Police Department, and they were talking about this program. A lot of times, and this, tomorrow, in fact, you're going to be out at a senior expo together with Chris Morse from the Helping Seniors Travel Club. You guys are both going to be out at the Wickham Community Center there at Wickham Park for a great senior expo. And people come up and they say, well, I'm okay, but there's a lady down the street, the grass is a little overgrown, and I don't know if she can manage all this stuff. And so I understood what the Palm Bay Police Department was trying to do was create a program where they would have officers check in with folks. And that's kind of the idea that we're headed after. And so kind of as we delve a little bit farther into that, really excited that we have none other than Joe Steckler, our president and founder, on the line. Hi, Joe. How are you today?
Fine. You got the volume up a little bit?
Well, we'll ask John to do all he can on the tech side, and we'll speak loudly. Yes, we're on the air.
Yeah, we're all here, Joe.
I can hear you.
Okay. So we're talking about Stay Connected, Joe. Share your thoughts.
Okay, I heard you talking about me all the time on the show. I want to talk a little about you too.
Go for it.
Okay, so let's talk about you a minute. I know we're talking about the program Staying Connected. So I started to read Kim an article that I wrote this week for next week's Staying Connected Part 1. And what you all are saying on the radio is exactly spot on for everything we need to do about whether it be pandemic or just normal times. There are so many things we have to think about in connecting people with each other. And we can have the best laid plans of mice and men, but if we don't make them happen, Kerry, they're no good, right?
Right.
So while you are talking about staying connected, I would like to talk about helping seniors stay connected to the people in the Space and Treasure Coast by virtue of the fact that we have a new executive director, and the guy is none other than the guy doing the radio show today is Kerry Fink. So while people might just think that we're talking about programs that people are not familiar with, you're very, very familiar with radio. You carry a tremendous background, Kerry, and that's one of the things I think that more people need to be excited about is the fact that I might have some good ideas, but you have equally good ideas, and you're able to translate those ideas to voice and to other medium, meaning television as well as radio as well as writing. So I think we got a lot of talent with you as the executive director and Kim as the education specialist, and I tried to I tried to read an article to Kim about staying connected so that she would understand that we're dropping a whole new program on her without her knowing about it. So you've been able to get a part of this across to her, I take it, right?
Oh, yeah. And if you have it handy, Joe, it would be great for you to read that article. It wasn't too long, and it was very, very well written.
Well, I took the article and I sent it over to Marty, and Marty's going to take a good look at it, and then we'll get it over to Hometown News, and hopefully Hometown News will publish it next week. And I think you're tossing numbers out around about 165,000 people are senior citizens on the Space and Treasure Coast. But you think about this radio show reaches the entire county, and that's over 600,000 people.
That's right.
And then the Palm Bay edition of the Hometown News reaches around 89,000 people.
Wow.
And I think there's something like 115,000 people in the city of Palm Bay itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start adding up the Hometown News, the radio distribution, the Space Coast Treasure, and I want you to talk a little bit about to our listening audience today about the Space and Treasure Coast television shows that are archived on the Space Coast television channel, because it's so important that they understand that everything that you're doing on the radio show, all that we do in Helping Seniors magazine, the television shows, they're all archived someplace. So if somebody has a question about a certain topic, they can go back and find out about it. And just to highlight what you and Kim are talking about on the radio this morning, Kim had called me several weeks ago about a man that needed help with an attorney for Social Security. And we thought everything had been taken care of. Well, the man called back and it needed more help. And evidently, the attorney that he had been recommended to was over in Tampa. And so that was a long way for him to drive. So I called another attorney here in town, and while John Alpazar's firm deals with as a trial attorney, they gave us a couple of good phone numbers, and I was able to get those numbers back to the gentleman. And I, in fact, talked to one of the attorneys myself, and found out that attorneys specialize in different fields, and it's not just enough to say, well, attorney such and such can handle it. We need to talk to the person to find out what their area of expertise is, and I did that. And then the woman that was the Social Security expert-in-law, she talked about the disability part, but she says, have the gentleman call me, because if it's not my area, I can help get him to the right person. So that's a big thing, and we're talking, and that's exactly what you do, Kim, right?
Oh, absolutely, Joe. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Now, listen, I'm not going to dominate this conversation. I'm going to try and listen and go back and let you two talk, and I'll add something in there if I can find something I can talk to. But it's not as hard for me to hear and get the same thing. Go ahead and talk, Kerry.
Okay. Well, the story Joe was just relaying was really kind of the story. When people say, well, like, what do you guys do? And that's it. I mean, it takes multiple calls. It's a case that started, 3-4 weeks ago. We do our best to move them down the track that sounds like is going to be helpful. Mm-hmm. Then we learn another piece of information, or there's another angle to the story, and so we go back right at it. And that's why I say, somebody once explained, a lot of times life is like a football game. You don't score a touchdown every time you line up. Mm-hmm. But what you're always trying to do is advance the ball so that you ultimately can make the touchdown. And a lot of times I feel like that's really what Kim, you do and what Joe does is every time you're helping somebody advance that football. Sometimes we can just help them score, score the goal right away. But sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get there, and that's that patience that you and Joe and the folks that we're hoping will join us in the whole Stay Connected program will be willing to share. One of the most, I think, fulfilling things is when you're doing something that's helping others. I mean, talk a little bit about the feeling you get when you've actually been successful at helping somebody resolve a crisis.
Oh, I think it's great, Kerry, because once I do solve the problem, they usually call me back, especially if they have, something else that's going on, or they're going to refer us to someone else who has a problem, and they know and they're confident that they can call us and we're going to help them.
Yeah, and see, what I like about it is not only do you have, you have a tremendous background yourself. You come out of working in a legal office, so you have all that sort of back part of it, but you also have a real solid understanding of what it takes to help people working in nonprofits and do that part of it, but also, you're a caregiver yourself.
Right.
There's nothing that you see somebody go through that you haven't experienced at some level. And so even though when you get stumped, you can turn to Joe and say, Joe, well, I'm not sure what's something else we could try in this case. But the thing is, when you know where to go, like when Joe was talking about the gentleman who needed help on the Social Security front, he knew who to call. And the lady that he spoke with says, look, let me talk to him. If I don't know what to do, I will know how to call. And another thing our pastor has always made a comment. He said, from his perspective, God always puts what you need in the house. So what he means by that is you have a problem, you're trying to resolve a problem, and we're always like trying to look way outside. Here it's like a call. If you don't know what to do, you're going to call Joe and say, what do you think? Joe will know who to call. If that person doesn't know what to do, they'll go, but I do know the right person to call. And that's how we solve our problems. It's step by step. It's not, sometimes it's a beautiful run down into the end zone, touchdown and all that.
Right.
But more often than not, it's play by play and you finally get there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for example, if we have a legal question or something that is in question, it could be legal. We do know of attorneys here locally in Brevard County that are trustworthy, and we can steer them in their direction, and they can further take that, that information and give it to them and put them right on that legal path.
I am really glad that you brought that up because I think a lot about Bill Johnson. He's a board certified elder law attorney.
Yes.
Normally he would be here with us in the studio on the first Wednesday of each month. He actually had he does a tremendous amount of senior legislative work as well, and they had called on him all of a sudden a meeting, I guess, connected to some legislation that he had to. He goes, Kerry, I'm sorry, I want to do the radio. I can't do it tomorrow. They just called this meeting, and it's right in the middle of the show. But I mean, the beautiful thing is over the years, and Bill Johnson is somebody who has been with Joe going way, way, way back into the Alzheimer's. So these are people that know their things. He's board certified elder law attorney. I mean, we have so many people that are in, I guess I would call it the Helping Seniors book Rolodex, we used to call it. And now it's probably a thing on a computer. But in the old days, they called it a Rolodex, and you would know who to call. And the nice thing is you can give people multiple avenues. Like if somebody says, well, I might need help at home, they could look at 500 names in a phone book or something and try to start to decipher who serves their area, who's got a good reputation, who has all the licenses and everything necessary. And yet you've done all that homework, so you can say, well, here's a couple of names to give a call, and then you can figure out how you can best help them. And that's what we're talking about, staying connected. So particularly to kind of cycle back to that, as we were in the break, I said, we have been really blessed for a couple of years. We had an office connected into the facility called Zon Beachside. We had started a thing there called the Senior Resource Center of Brevard, and quite frankly, they needed space because they are literally busting at the seams successfully. So they actually needed to reclaim that space to make more living accommodations, which I certainly understand. But Greg Kennedy, who's the executive director, we were talking. He said, Kerry, he said, I really want you guys to please come back and start holding those community information seminars that you were having. He says, we still have to do it with a limited number of people because of the COVID restrictions. Keeping everybody safe is number one. But we can also have people join us via Zoom. And I really think we want to set up a date so that we can get this whole Stay Connected program going. And I think that ought to be actually the first meeting, because it encompasses so many things. It encompasses what we're trying to do with advocacy. It encompasses what we're trying to do with helping the seniors. You know, Joe, we were quoting that figure of 165,000 people who are 65 plus. But if you want to use AARP definition, which they say if you're 50 plus, you are either a senior or thinking about senior things. Now you've gone to 250 plus thousand. You're what, 300,000 actually. You're over half. You're over half of the entire population of Brevard County is over 50. So if you're not thinking about senior things, you're going to be at some moment along the way here, and it really makes sense to get ahead. So I want to encourage, this is a program that we're really serious about, and we're going to be building, and I want to encourage you, if you're hearing this today, to give Kim Bernard a call. I'm going to get you to share the number. We're just, at this point, we just want to get a list of folks who are interested. We're going to set a date that we're going to have a meeting over at the Nautilus Ballroom, which is that beautiful facility they have over at Zon Beachside. So there will be a limited number of people who can come in there. I think the number is probably 25 or so. Mm-hmm. So we'll come up with an RSVP list. But if you can't make it there, maybe you don't necessarily live close to there, or you're more comfortable attending by Zoom, we're going to set that up so you can be part of this. But we need you to get involved. We need you to stay connected. So, Kim, let's talk about how they get in touch with you.
Sure, absolutely, Kerry. They can just give me a call at 321-473-7770.
And this is so important because for a number of years, and we were actually scheduled an advocacy council meeting just before COVID kind of locked everything down. And so, you know, a lot of times we complain about things that may not necessarily be as right as they should on behalf of seniors. But if we're not getting together and trying to provide our leadership with good information that helps them make decisions that are good for seniors, then shame on us. And not only that, as Joe has said, it's all about helping people. You know, how many people got really isolated? I remember talking to some of the home health care agencies that have been partnered with helping seniors for a period of time. And they said, you know, we've got the COVID thing under control. Mm-hmm. We can keep our seniors safe. We've learned what we have to do to take all the precautions so that they stay safe. But they would all say the same thing. I'm worried about them being isolated now. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe the kids would come down a couple of times from up north to visit. They couldn't get down here with travel restrictions and all kinds of things. So that mom, that dad, that aunt, that uncle are just totally off by themselves, and it's not good for people to be alone.
No, it's not, Kerry. It's actually very unhealthy. They become depressed. They think that they're never going to get out again. They think they're never going to be able to see their loved ones. And of course, with, you know, their loved ones being up north or even out west, it makes things really, really difficult.
You know, and I was thinking, even when I was talking to like Greg Kennedy over at Zon Beachside or Ashley and Charisse over at Hibiscus, you know, they said they tell the story about how somebody came out of an isolated situation. Maybe they were living at home and it was a real tough decision to move mom or dad into an assisted living situation, but then they end up thriving because now they've got social interaction, they've got things going on, and they just get a whole new lease on life. And it just proves the point we're talking about. Isolation cannot be good for people, and it's been made terrible in these COVID times.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, isolation, even them just sitting in front of a TV all day is the worst thing that they could possibly be doing. They're not exercising, they're not moving. Whereas if they get, like you said, into an assisted living facility, they have the activities, they have crafts, they have all kinds of things for seniors to do. And that just takes their mind off of everything. They make friends with other people. And I don't want to say that they forget their loved ones, but they are distracted in a positive manner. Yeah,
and the thing is that, but that's also the benefit. We've heard, you know, folks like Jennifer Helen say over and over that a lot of times the adult children are really depending on folks like Seniors Helping Seniors to be the eyes and ears, and just that brightens their day that somebody's coming into the home for a couple of hours, and it gives them some interaction. But that's what we're talking about with this Stay Connected. We would like for you to consider volunteering. We need your help. This isn't 100% all like framed out and everything, but we would like to know if you're interested, if you're willing to just give a little bit of time each week along the way and maybe be part as we kind of hammer this out. Would you give Kim a call? Let's go through that contact information again.
Sure, Carrie. It's 321-473-7770.
And what Joe was talking about too, by the way, earlier in the show, we have gone out of our way to try to find the best experts and the best help we can get to provide illumination on issues that we find seniors are commonly facing. And that's what Joe was referring to about this big archive that we have. We broadcast on Space Coast Government TV 3 times a day, Monday through Friday, and that's available on every single cable-equipped household in Brevard County, including those that have like Dish Network or something like that. So you can find us broadcasting every day, 3 times a day. I think it's I believe it's 8:30, and then it's 4:30 and 5 p.m. And occasionally it'll get preempted because obviously Space Coast Channel exists to broadcast, county commission meetings and things like that. But typically 3 times a day, Monday through Friday, you'll find us right there. But more importantly, you can find us at your leisure online. You can either go to our website, helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. Do you know that there's like 250 plus TV shows that are archived there? It's more than 250. We've archived all the radio shows there. We have archived every article that we've published in the different newspapers. We've archived every issue of the Helping Seniors newsletter. And so you can just literally go in and search by topic at Helping Seniors of Brevard, and it will pull up all the material that's in that vast library that's been accumulated over 10 years of doing this. So that's available to you. If you like YouTube, there's a great YouTube channel. You can find episode after episode. I know we have Barbara McIntyre, who's a reverse mortgage expert. She literally gets calls from people all over the country who spot that video on YouTube. And, people aren't stupid. They can tell when somebody is a real expert, and they get that Barbara is a real expert. So they're calling her from California and all kinds of places about that. And then, we also are on Facebook. So you can find all of our videos and information there on Facebook. So however you are connected electronically, feel free to. But Kim, you also work with a lot of seniors who are non-electronic. And that's another reason why us doing kind of the more conventional means of radio and things like that are so important. And you being available to be that friendly person on the other end of the Senior Information Helpline.
Yeah, Carrie, just as an example, the lady that I was talking to you about before, her son comes over, every day to check on her and everything like that, does grocery shopping, etc. But she does not have a computer.
Right.
And she will literally call me and say, can you please do me a big favor, and can you find me the number for such and such doctor? So I get on my computer and I find the doctor, give her the number, and before I know it, we're looking up something else for her. So
so you're instead of letting the fingers do the walking,
right,
you're letting the Kim do the walking.
Exactly.
But it's good
That's why she calls me.
because you know what you're doing.
Right.
So we are out of time on today's Helping Seniors radio program, but tomorrow morning, if you're anywhere near Wickham Park, at the Wickham Park Community Center, right there, you guys are going to be there. I think it's 9 to noon. Is that the hours?
I think it's 9 to noon. Yes.
9 to noon. It is the Senior Expo, and this is exciting. This is the first time that you guys are actually venturing indoors from the drive-through. So I think you're going to have a great morning with that. So be sure to come out and join Kim Bernard and Chris Morse for that. Be sure to give Kim a call about this Stay Connected program. That number one more time before we get off the air here.
Sure, 321-473-7770.
And thank you, Kim, for being here today and sharing. And thank you, Joe, for being on the air with us and sharing today. On behalf of Joe, our president and founder, Kim, and myself, and John Harper, and Jim Votro, and the entire team here, we just hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next Wednesday for Helping Seniors Radio.